All right, let's do it. Kev, take it away.
What's up, Chris? How you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, episode 3. We're doing it a little bit differently tonight. We're all, remote right now. A lot of things going on, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of work behind the scenes and whatnot. But we're back here for another episode. We got a lot of stuff to go over, recapping some big numbers from last week, some big games this week, which we will have a special guest today, our first ever guest on By the Numbers, which we will have very shortly. As many people know, there's a big game in South Jersey this week, biggest game in the state, and it'll be being played in South Jersey. So a lot of people looking forward to that. So, I mean, Chris, how was your week? How was your weekend? Was there any games you've seen this past weekend? And just how's life been?
Just same old stuff working. But yeah, I got out to Camden versus Kingsway. That was actually really pretty good game. Camden High, shot out to a big lead at first. Kingsway came back, took the lead. Camden gets a huge fumble, forced by Halim Muhammad, picked up by I forget who it was on the defense, but they picked it up. I think they went about 70-ish yards in about a minute, maybe a little over a minute. Gave Kingsway like 10 seconds left before Jathan Candelario punched in a quarterback sneak. Camden got the win, stays undefeated 2-0, and then they're rolling in the next week, and they're looking forward to their next test. And Kingsway is going to try and lick their wounds a little bit, and then they got Timber Creek this week, so that should be a pretty good game there. So both teams, you know, looking to try and keep it rolling in the next week. Kingsway looking to get off the schneid there, as well as Camden trying to stay undefeated.
I hear you. Yeah, I seen the updates that you were posting, and a couple other guys. That looked like a really good game, obviously, coming down to the wire like that. And, game getting sealed down that last play. And obviously, two teams that have appeared in pretty much everyone's rankings and both have, sectional championship aspirations, state championship aspirations. So definitely, a big test for both teams early on, and Camden, able to ace it. And that was a game that last year that was, 30-0 and a lot closer this time. And there was a point where Kingsway, I know, was up. So definitely a good game there. Yeah, I had a good week. Just been working. Working out, doing the same old, same old. I got to go out to East Side and Willingboro on Saturday, which was actually hosted at Camden, and that turned out to be a good game. Both teams, early in the season, you deal with the stuff that you see early in the season. Guys cramping, penalties and stuff like that, pre-snap penalties. Couple turnovers here and there, a couple mishaps from each team, but overall, a good game. The defenses on both sides were tremendous. East Side pulled out a 14-7 win there. They were able to, stand their ground and have one final defensive stand with about 2.5 minutes to go to win that. I was impressed by East Side's quarterback, Naeem Dale. Very athletic. He's able to create plays and whatnot when the pocket collapses, and use his legs. Use that athleticism to extend plays and stuff like that. Obviously, Elijah Satchel, who's going to NC State, tremendous athlete. He's known more so for his work on the defensive side of the ball, but he was able to make some plays at tight end, filling gaps and whatnot, finding soft spots in the zone and helping them, extend drives and whatnot. And it was cool to see, East Side back out there, a team that went winless last year, playing in a tough division. They're 2-0 right now. And as I know Roderick mentioned on one of the last shows, Preston Brown helping back out there at East Side, where, he built a tremendous program a couple years ago. His brother Malik Brown in charge right now. Seeing those two out there and just seeing the energy and whatnot from that sideline was good to see, and definitely a good game.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what Eastside lacked a little bit last year. Is the offensive, I guess, drive to kind of put it. They had some guys, they had athletes, they had guys all around the field. They just couldn't really put it together, and it seems like Preston Brown's got them playing some pretty good offense right now. As Malik's probably calling the defense, so those two put it together, making things work. I mean, look, like you mentioned before, they were winless last year. Now they're 2-0 right now, so I mean, you really can't have a better start.
Yeah, so moving on, we're going to move on to the question of the day, and then we'll get into a couple key numbers that you were able to pull from over the weekend before we talk about the big game this week and bring in our guest. Question of the day today is, last week we talked about concession stand items at high school games. Today's question of the day is, what is your favorite football team, whether it be high school, college, or professional football, NFL, even if you want to go, you know, European football, Canadian football, even if you want to dig deep. What's your favorite colorway, branding, like logo, jersey design? What's your favorite one of any level? Or if you have one for each level, feel free to share them.
Rod's got it right now. I mean, I got it on too. Also, you can't go wrong with that Carolina blue, baby. The Argyle when they usually go with for basketball, base or basketball and football. Um, that's probably for college. For NFL, I mean, honestly, it's a little bit biased because I'm a Patriots fan. I mean, you really can't go wrong with the Patriots throwbacks with the red and the white helmet. You can't go wrong with that either. High school, honestly, it's a little bit of a different one. I'm gonna go with Absagami. Their baseball jersey. They usually rock like the charcoal gray baseball jersey with like the brown stripes, and it actually looks pretty good. I like that colorway. I think it's like a Vegas gold and brown they go with.
Mm.
Rick, what are you thinking? I think we might. You might have the hat on. I don't know. Maybe you're gonna go somewhere else with this one.
Nah, I'm going exactly where you think I'm going. You know, it's just a classic look. You know what I mean? I like when they go to some of the alternate jerseys, like when Terrell Pryor was playing, they would go with the all whites and things like that. I like the all black Ohio State uniforms. They go with sometimes with the the scarlet and gray. That's always a classic look. As far as high school, believe it or not, I used to like I guess when they were Woodrow Wilson, but East Side's the Tiger Stripe helmets. I always like those. I'm from Ohio. As far as being born and being out there and getting to see it, so it always was like something different when you came, on a high school level and get to see it. And one year they did the traditional black helmet with the orange tiger stripes instead of the orange helmet with the black. That was pretty cool too. So I like that. As far as NFL, um I like the Rams. Believe it or not, I like the Rams. That's probably because of Eric Dickerson when he used to have the neck roll and all of that stuff. Like I just like the Ram horn on the jersey. It just was something clean about it. I used to like that. That's where I stand. As far as soccer or any of that, I don't know. I don't watch it.
Oh, if we're getting into soccer, hold on. I got one of my scarves right here. Traditional, always with the Union scarf right here. I don't know if
Oh,
you can really
okay.
see it on camera a little bit.
Mm.
With
Represent
the navy gold,
local team.
got the got the dupe on the back. Can't go wrong with that. And the crest, was it the crest too? Can't go wrong with that at all.
You
So
be you be jumping up and down at the games with them in the stands.
the Sons of Ben, yeah, one of my first games actually was in the Sons of Ben section, and not shockingly, 7-year-old me, my parents had to cover my ears a couple times, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't. For me, I mean, I haven't. High school and college is tough. There's so many I like. I don't know if I
yeah.
could pinpoint one right now. I might have to come back to that in a future show or whatnot. But if I had to choose one professionally, I think I'm a huge fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars retro when they because they're
The
a
ones never
franchise that just
terrible though.
started in the '90s. So, like those colorways, and I like that how they're kind of going back to that a little bit. We're seeing a little bit more retro looks with these teams, and they're bringing it
Hmm.
back. I definitely like the Jacksonville Jaguars where they have the actual Jaguar on the helmet and whatnot. And I just like that colorway. Same with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like that throwback creamsicle. I've always been like a fan of orange,
Yeah.
utilized that way. But I know one of my friends is a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and he says every time they wear them, they lose. So I know he's not a huge fan of them, but I'm definitely a retro guy. Those probably would be my two choices right there. Moving on now. I know Chris, you got some notes from the past couple games, or excuse me, the last weekend. There's a couple games there with some key numbers you had in terms of big rushers and guys who had some good days catching the football and whatnot. Just take us through that. Take us through some key numbers that stand out.
Yeah, so 6 players ran for over 150 yards last week. Terrence Barnes for Riverside ran 14 times for 157 yards. Had 2 touchdowns and a receiving touchdown through the air as well. Brandon Markovsky looking like possibly the new breakout feature back there at Cherokee. Seems like they have one every year. Ran 19 times for 233 yards and 4 touchdowns against Lenape at the Bowl. Aiden Barbado for Gateway. They beat Haddon Township. I want to say the Gateway is off to a 2-0 start as well this year, which is big for the Gators. He ran 19 times for 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also for Gateway, they threw 4 passes and didn't complete a single one. They just ran the ball pretty much the entirety of the game. So That's usually a bit of an oddity there, even for like even wing T teams. Sometimes they'll complete like one or two passes, but Gateway didn't complete a single pass, and they still came away with a big win. And Dante Davis for Burlington City, 22 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. Had the go-ahead touchdown. They beat Bordentown 20-14. The go-ahead touchdown. I think maybe like 30 seconds left or something like that. I remember seeing a video. Roman Coney for St. Augustine, 19 carries, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's having a really good breakout season so far. He had a huge game out at Canton at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium to have them start off the season. And then they come out and get a big win over Paul VI. And then Zamir Davis, 15 carries, 205 yards, 3 touchdowns for West Defford as they rolled past Pennsville there. And through the air, a little bit of a pretty good air raid week as well. 3 players had 100-plus receiving yards. Delran's Justin Mary Jr. caught 4 passes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns as Delran rolled past Ewing. Taheem Sally, I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name, I'm not too sure, from Sterling, had 3 catches for 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sterling is undefeated to start the year as well. Big thing for them, too, this year is to start off on the right foot. Gerald Sackey from Burlington Township, 2 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. So a pretty big week there for guys, through the air and on the ground.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned Roman Coney, who's having a breakout season, like you said, at St. Augustine. He had a solid year last year, but obviously, he was spelling, Julian Turney, who's at, was it Army now or
I think
Navy?
Navy.
One of the
Navy.
Yeah,
Navy,
tremendous,
yeah.
all South Jersey, all state caliber running back who was just a pure bruiser and just, punished defenses. And Roman Coney was kind of, like I said, the guy who spelled him and was given opportunities and capitalized when he has opportunities. But now, a guy who's in that lead role, I know he has an offer from Syracuse. You're seeing some stuff, coming in from Virginia Tech and whatnot. Got, some Power 5 schools showing interest in him. So definitely someone to keep an eye on the rest of the year. A guy who's definitely going to be in that all South Jersey, all state conversation, playing for a team like St. Augustine, who's one of the best teams in South Jersey year in and year out, but also off to a great start this year. And you mentioning Zamir Davis for West Defford going over 200 yards. I know West Defford rushed for over 400 yards as a team last week, had 5 touchdowns on the ground. So I mean, just they're off to a great start, 2-0 for the first time I believe since 2019, and
I think
over
going over
400 yards
that
rushing,
right there.
5 touchdowns. And obviously running a wing T offense there, they're off to a great start, and I'm sure John Emmel couldn't be more happy with how his team has played thus far.
Yeah. Couple games to look forward to this week as well. Also features West Effort. They're at Collingswood on Thursday. They have a little bit of a 9/11 ceremony beforehand. I know Coach McKeown was looking for some people that I think were firefighters or may have responded to 9/11 during the attacks. Looking to do something there. I know they have some nice digital camo jerseys too as well. Coach McKeown previewed sometime before the season, I think, in a post on social media. But it's been a little bit of a lopsided matchup for these two. West Defford's won the last 5 matchups. They've outscored Collingswood 192-14 in those matchups. And I tried looking earlier to try and find the last Collingswood win. I went through NJ.com. Max Preps goes back to, I think, either 2004 2003. I couldn't find a win there. So it's been a long time since Collingswood has beat West Defford. I know Coach McEwen's looking to try and possibly, maybe grab a win there, try and start 3-0. These are 2-0 teams as well. So someone 0 has to go.
Absolutely, and you mentioned both teams being 2-0. As I said, West Defford 2-0 for the first time since 2019. That's the last time they started 3-0. And then Collingswood started off last year 2-0. So now they're trying to obviously improve on that and go 3-0. And two Colonial Conference teams who seem to play each other every single year. And that's something we love to see in local high school football, being with as much turnover as there is year to year, and with the West Jersey Football League realigning divisions every 2 years to try to even the competition, which is a good thing. Collingswood and West Defford seem to play every single year, which I think classic traditions like that should always stick around high school football, and it's good to see them playing. So I know that's one matchup that's we're looking forward to this week. That's a game to watch that a lot of people got some eyes on. What are a couple other ones you have listed there that you think will be some good ones to watch? We'll leave the best for last, but take us through a couple other ones you got.
Yeah, so I've got pretty much 2 teams that have been a mainstay in the American division ever since, the West Jersey Football League has formed. Like you mentioned before in the first show, it seems like The divisions kind of go almost by tiers a little bit. And it seems like year in and year out, Cherokee and St. Augustine are both always in the American division. I know in recent memory, they're usually have been as well. They usually face off a lot. So that's another game I'm looking forward to this week is Cherokee at St. Augustine, both 2-0, Friday night kickoff. St. Augustine has won 4 of the last 5 matchups as well, outscoring the Chiefs in those matchups 72-24. Cherokee did also pull out, I guess, what was considered technically an upset win at the time. I know, remember, a lot of people in South Jersey were like, "Oh wow," because Cherokee beat St. Augustine 20-14 back in 2022, and a lot of people were kind of shocked by that matchup, or at least that result. And this is going to be a good one. I feel like both teams are going to be physical in the trenches. It seems like what's always the big matchup is between the two is always people are looking in the trenches, D line, O line, whatever anyone has. So, and I think Markovsky getting some free reign last week at home against Lenape, possibly that might be another matchup for people to look at too, is Coney versus Markovsky.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity for Cherokee, being that you mentioned the West Jersey Football League American Division being the top flight division in that league, and Cherokee kind of a team that came into the year flying under the radar, being that there's so many good teams in that division. Winslow, St. Augustine, Millville was playing in a state semifinal last year. Mainland was playing in a state championship. So Cherokee coming in, experienced in the trenches, but a lot of new faces, experience at quarterback, a new head coach. They're off to a 2-0 start. 2 quality wins against Middletown South and Lenape. So great opportunity for them against one of the top teams in South Jersey this week. Game I'm looking forward to, keep an eye on, is the Anchor Bowl down in Cape May County, Lower Cape May and Middle Township.
Yeah.
And this is a 103-year rivalry that existed for 103 years. There's only been 2 years where they didn't play that rivalry, when they had the COVID-19 pandemic, and then there was an incident a couple years ago in the past decade or so, past 10, 15 years, where Lower Cape May couldn't play because of injuries and whatnot. So it used to be a Thanksgiving rivalry. Now it's something that they play earlier in the year. Middle has won 11 of the last 12 matchups. Lower Cape May's last win in that matchup was in 2017. It was a 21-20 victory. Lower Cape May coming off a loss to Gloucester City. They won their opener against Pinelands. Middle Township coming off a loss to Triton. They're 0-2. Lower Cape May at 1-1. So Middle Township has controlled this rivalry for the past, 10 to 15 years, as I stated. But a great opportunity for Lower Cape May to get some redemption this year. And that's definitely one I'm looking forward to. One of those traditional matchups that I know some people in the area were probably upset that's no longer on Thanksgiving. I know there was a incident. I could be wrong. I said 2 times that they hadn't played in the past 103 years. I think there was a third time. There was an incident where they didn't play, and a lot of people were in that area were kind of upset about that. And another one of those matchups where this is something that they should keep in place, because this is what high school football is all about.
Yeah, I love the traditional matchups, traditional rivalries. Obviously, going to Gloucester, wake up during Thanksgiving morning, get to play Gloucester Catholic. That's another Thanksgiving rivalry that I think we're down to like 5 or 6 now in South Jersey, or maybe even the entire state as well. I know there's like maybe 2 or 3 traditional matchups still alive up there. I know Phillipsburg plays a team from PA. That's always a big one up there. And yeah, South Jersey and Thanksgiving traditions are just kind of it's a dying thing, obviously because of scheduling and all that, and everything keeps moving around, a lot of moving pieces. But obviously, I like the traditional matchups, whether they're played in the in the regular season or on Thanksgiving. Regardless, play the rivalry, just play it. So just find it in the schedule.
Absolutely. So what other games do you got on your radar this week?
So I've got another rivalry matchup on Route 130. We got Cinnamon who's coming in at 1-1 against Delran, who's coming in at 2-0. That's at Friday night, or on Friday night at Delran. Delran has won 3 of the last 5 matchups. Last year I was there. Shane Polina had a go-ahead field goal late in the game. I think it was under a minute, maybe under 30 seconds left. But Cinnamon also did win 2 straight in 2022 and 2023. Cinnamon, I'm pretty sure is at, like I said, they're at 1-1 right now. They had the, speaking of field goals, they had a go-ahead field goal in the first quarter last week against Salem that won them the game 3-0. Delran, we mentioned before, they beat Ewing 28-0. I got to see them against Bridgeton too at Battle at the Beach. So it should be a pretty good matchup, regardless of records, regardless of whoever has what. Rivalries are usually always pretty close games, fairly good games, fairly competitive. So I think this is going to be another one of those that we can see again this Friday night.
Absolutely. Another one of those neighborhood rivalries where there's not much love lost, when one team wins and the other one doesn't. That's a game that, regardless of what the records are going into that game, both teams bring the intensity every single time. I know a lot of those kids typically, know the guys on the other team from growing up, in the next neighborhood. I mean, Delran and Cinnaminson obviously not separated by much. The schools are only a few miles apart. You have neighborhoods that back up to each other and whatnot along Route Run 30 right there, and all those roads that branch off towards River Road and whatnot. So definitely a big matchup there. Another big one I know we have coming up this week is Atlantic City and Cedar Creek. That'll be a 1:30 p.m. start on Saturday. Atlantic City, probably the biggest surprise in South Jersey so far this season through 2 weeks. Definitely a team whose stock is through the roof right now. The fastest riser in South Jersey, and I don't know if I should necessarily say a big surprise because I know this is a team that played for a sectional championship last year and came back this year with the same expectations, expecting to be back there. But I mean, to go out and beat Mainland the first week when a lot of people were very big on Mainland, and Mainland is still a tremendous program, a tremendous team who had a big win against Hamilton this past week, a team that played in the Group 3 state final last year, and then to rally from a deficit the way they did and beat Millville last week. Two huge wins. Everyone's been talking about Atlantic City these past couple of days. They'll take the trip to Egg Harbor City to play Cedar Creek, another team with sectional championship and state championship aspirations this year, an experienced group. Had a loss to Old Bridge in the Battle at the Beach, a very good Group 5 team, and then bounced back with a win against district rival Absegama this past week. So that's a big one this week. Atlantic City, I know, won 42-0 last year, but it's a new season, a clean slate for both teams. I know that's a big one this weekend.
Yeah, it's only the second ever matchup. Like you mentioned before in a prior episode, Cedar Creek's been around for what, 15 years total, maybe at most, as a school. So it's their second ever matchup. But like you said, Atlantic City 142, nothing last year. Clean slate for both teams. I'd say like for Atlantic City, surprise wise, I'd say from the outside it might be a little bit of a surprise because I don't think many people knew like how they'd possibly try and fill in the gaps that Peaky Roseboro and Ice Cup left, the last couple of years that they had there. So, but I think inside they knew what they had, what they can do, and what they brought back. And I don't think maybe from inside Atlantic City is that's much of a surprise. But outside, I guess technically you could probably call it that. But I mean, yeah, I'd say they're probably the biggest stock risers so far in South Jersey. They're making a case to possibly maybe puncture the top 6 rankings sometime this season. So I guess we'll probably have to see that down the line.
Absolutely. And like you said, no surprise to those who are in the building. I mean, this is a team that lost their quarterback, lost their best wide receiver to graduation. But even last year, there was an instance where the quarterback goes down, they have someone fill in. And even in the game against Millville, they had a quarterback come in sort of like in a relief pitching role and play tremendous and help them get that come from behind win. 13 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. They shut Millville out in the second half. And this was a team that came into the year experienced in the trenches, a lot of guys back on defense, and they got a lot of underrated guys on that defense. Jaden Hemphill, Omar Kelly, a couple underrated guys who don't get talked about a lot throughout South Jersey, but guys who have been making an impact there the past 2-3 seasons. And as you said, I mean, no surprise to them inside that building. And Atlantic City is another one of those teams who is always going to have tremendous athletes and whatnot, plenty of speed. So if you're all right in the trenches, the rest of that will all come together. And those guys have done they couldn't have done any better up until this point through 2 weeks with 2 massive wins over Mainland and Millville. So moving on now, we all know what the big one is. It's this game of the week, not only in South Jersey, not only in Camden County, but in the entire state of New Jersey. We have Bergen Catholic, the number 1 team in the state, coming down to visit Winslow Township, the number 1 team in South Jersey, and the number 1 public school in the state. These 2 teams were at Battle at the Beach 2 weeks ago. They did not play each other, obviously, because they're doing that this week. But both teams playing nationally ranked opponents. Bergen Catholic grinded out a 22-21 win over East St. Louis down there. Winslow battled to the end against IMG Academy. Eventually fell 35-14. It was a 21-14 game at halftime. Big game this week. A lot of people looking forward to it. Expect a sold-out crowd. Because the winner is the best team in New Jersey up until this point. Chris, how excited for you for this matchup?
To get there and watch the game, very to find parking, not so very excited because that parking lot not the biggest there at Winslow. So I mean that's gonna be filled pretty quickly. whether people are trying to get good parking early or maybe hanging out doing some tailgating possibly. Regardless, it's a colossal matchup. You really can't find a word for how big of a matchup it is. It's number one public school in the state versus number one team in the state, and it's technically, I guess, a battle for like first place. I mean, if Winslow, they beat Bergen Catholic, they're number one in the state, right? They got to be. I mean, they beat the number one team in the state, so I
Absolutely.
mean, they have to take that ranking there. But I think I'm looking forward to it a lot. The lights are going to be bright, the stars are going to be out, stands are going to be packed, parking lot's going to be packed. It's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to watch it. Honestly, I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to see what's going on. And I think that it will most likely live up to the hype that people are surrounding it with.
Absolutely. And by the numbers, two state champions, obviously Bergen Catholic, the defending non-public A state champion, Winslow Township, the defending Group 4 state champion. First ever matchup between the two. Based on these notes, Bergen Catholic averaging 21.5 points per game. They have wins over East St. Louis of Illinois and West Boca Raton, a 6A state champion in the state of Florida. They beat them down in Florida last week. They're allowing 17.5 points a game. Winslow as well is averaging 17.5 or allowing 17.5 points per game, and they're averaging 30.5 points per game on offense. After that, 35-14 loss to IMG Academy, and then a huge 47-0 win over Highland Regional last week. So we actually have the signal caller from Winslow on the line. I guess Rick can let us know if he is here, if he is ready. He's here to talk to us about this matchup coming up, a massive matchup. Jalen Parker here joining the show, an all-state quarterback who's been tremendous at Winslow since he's been there as a freshman and just continues to grow each year. And we're looking forward to having him on the show to talk about this colossal matchup coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for it. Parker started a little bit his freshman year, working with Deontay Ruffin, and got this full time starting job last year. So he's pretty much excelled. I think he exceeded any expectation that anyone at Winslow might have had for him, and he certainly balled out in that IMG game. So waiting for him to pop in whenever we're ready to go here.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Well, I'm trying to get him on right now. We working with a little technical difficulty, so we can start previewing. I guess something else until we can get him on and find out if we can get him on. Just give me a little bit. I'm working and talking to him behind the scenes, trying to walk him through it.
Absolutely. So yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit more on this matchup. I mean, there's going to be plenty of Division One talent on this football field on both sides of the ball. No shortage of talent. We talk about a Bergen Catholic team who has Jordan Thomas, who's been tremendous through their first two games. He's headed to Ohio State. Brian Porter, another name we've mentioned on previous shows, wide receiver, who when it's all said and done is going to be able to go pretty much wherever he wants. Jermaine Kinsler, Texas A&M commit, had a huge game against West Boca Raton last week. Just plenty of underclassmen by the time they graduate are simply going to be able to go pretty much wherever they want. Jackson Vaughn, the number one recruit in the state in the class of 2028. I seen a clip the other day of some North Jersey guys talking about how they think this kid is going to leave Bergen Catholic as the best recruit to ever come out of that school. And this is the school we're talking about that's won 4 state championships, a program that's won plenty of state championships before that. Brian Cushing, an all-pro in the NFL for the Houston Texans, is one of them guys who came out of Bergen Catholic. And that was one of the guys they referenced. They said, look, this guy is going to be just as good, if not a bigger recruit than him. Talking about, the Porter brothers, who are both two tremendous wide receivers that one, graduated and is at Ohio State. The other one's still there. They said, look, this kid is special. He's going to be the best recruit to come out of there. And it's not a hot take, a far-fetched statement. I mean, seeing this kid at Battle at the Beach, he was tremendous. 3 sacks against East St. Louis, and he's only a sophomore. He's only going to continue to grow as a player, as a person, but just seeing the impact he had, just feasting in the backfield. There was a play where against East St. Louis when I was at that game where he simply just kind of stumbled and fell into the quarterback. And it's just, he's so big that the quarterback just came down with him. It was like a domino effect, a literal domino effect. They went down like dominoes. And he's just a tremendous player, a tremendous athlete, tremendous student athlete who just, has a motor, is athletically gifted, and is only going to grow from there. But that's one big recruit to watch. And then, Chris, take us through a couple of the big time guys from Winslow, some of their playmakers who may have already made verbal commitments, or guys who are on those radars of some of those Power Five schools, FBS schools, FCS schools. There's a lot of Division One talent and just pure talent on that team overall.
Yeah, there's the Woodward brothers too from Bergen Catholic, both in the 2028 class, both DBs. Winslow, they've got Nakeem Powell going to Delaware. I'd imagine Jalen Parker's stock probably rose a fairly good amount after that IMG game. Julian Peterson going to Penn State from Winslow. Nakir Helton going to Boston College. Karan Ali going to Towson. I think I hope I'm not forgetting anyone here. I'm trying to pull up 24/7 Sports just to make sure I don't really forget anyone. But yeah, I mean, like there's just no shortage of guys they have to where they have Division One offers, whether it's Power Five or Group of Five or FCS, whatever it is. Up and down the board, they've got it. So I mean, yeah, like I mentioned before, Peterson going to Penn State, Helton going to Boston College, Ali going to Towson, Powell going to Delaware. I'm trying to think of any of the guys. Am I missing anyone? I feel like I'm probably missing a couple of guys there for Winslow.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of guys on that team who've committed and whatnot, and plenty of guys who are on the radar of college schools, guys who are all state selections, all South Jersey selections. One player who's been tremendous since he's joined Winslow this season, Karan Caesar, transfer from Penns Grove, had a tremendous pass breakup in that game against IMG Academy, and I was like, wow, that's why you want to play on this stage. You want to give your players this opportunity to make plays like that, to be able to have that kind of film and whatnot. And I know he had a tremendous game against Highland last week, and obviously a lot of talent in the trenches as well, both ways for Winslow. Philip Hatfield, Rob Karstarfin, Benji Carter. These are guys who are all going to play at the next level, at some level, just because of how good they are, how talented they are, and just talent on both sides of the ball, skill positions in the trenches. Obviously, Parker, the quarterback, who we will have on the show momentarily once we figure out the technical difficulties, tremendous player who's just continues to improve and has been a great player since he's came in, but you just see the growth and, and what he's able to do, how he's able to execute, take what the defense gives him. And we mentioned it on the past show. I mean, that play he had against IMG Academy where he doesn't run often, he doesn't need to based on all the playmakers they have, but just being able to make a play happen and have that incredible front flip into the end zone to score that touchdown against IMG Academy on 4th and long there. Just a tremendous guy, tremendous signal caller. He makes the type of decisions you want your quarterback to make, especially when you have that much talent. So, obviously, Winslow has the horses, as they say, so to speak, to go up against a team like Bergen Catholic. They match up well in each areas and whatnot, and they're set for a big test this weekend.
Yeah, I did forget another obvious one for Winslow. Quade Hendricks, the Burlington Township transfer, going to UConn. Probably arguably one of the fastest guys in the entire state. He's just got breakaway speed. Not sure if he will be ready to go for Burton Catholic this week. I don't know if the timeline. I might have the timeline wrong in my head, but regardless, it's another big one, another big weapon there for Parker to utilize once he's ready to go.
All right, guys. I'm still working, trying to get him in. I just talked to him on the phone. So hopefully this link works for him. There we go. So right now I was able to get him on. So let me work in the background, and then we'll bring him up in about 2 minutes. All right, less than 2 minutes. We'll bring him up. All right.
I got you.
Absolutely. Hey, we're happy to have him. It's like we said, this is our first remote show, so we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we appreciate you guys being patient with the technical difficulties we may be experiencing here and whatnot. So give us a few minutes, 2 minutes, according to Rick, and we will have Jalen Parker on the show. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on high school football in the area, we're seeing a lot more 6 p.m. starts. How do you feel about that?
Not a fan. Not a fan. Um, if it's for travel, like I know people were big fans of it when I was at Gloucester. We had to go down to Wildwood. That was another. People were big fans of that. Just so that way we can try and hopefully find food on the way back that will still open by the time the game's over. So I know. I remember my sophomore year, the game didn't get done. It was a 7 p.m. kickoff down at Wildwood Maxwell Field, um, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. And they're like, yeah, there's just no use in trying to feed you guys after the game. Like, we're just gonna get you guys like a local pizza shop that will still open. We'll order like 15, 20 pizzas. You guys just have at it. Like, we're not gonna try and find anything on the way home. It's no use. So we'll grab somewhere that's still open before it's like midnight, and then we end up getting back around like midnight. I know probably the worst drive, or well, worst. I don't want to say worst, but we were down in, ironically, my junior year. We were down at Lower Cape May, and that itself was like a two and some change with traffic drive down there. So and that point we got back at like probably close to midnight as well, if not maybe a little after midnight, because that drive to Lower Cape May, when they mean Lower Cape May, that is probably the lowest point of Cape May that you could possibly get to down there. So that was probably a reasonable time to have a possible 6 o'clock start, but back then everything was still 7 o'clock. But personally, I'm not really a fan of the 6 p.m. starts because you still have the sunset and the sun's still in your eyes. Obviously later in the season the sun will be down, but right now it's like, you want the kids to play under the lights, not play under the sunset. But that's just my take on it.
No, I agree. We got Rick back here. It looks like, do we have Jalen Parker in now?
Yes, sir. You got him here. So
All right.
go
Well,
ahead. If you want to do your intro, you know what I mean? I know you had something ready for him.
absolutely. Well, Jalen, welcome to the show. We appreciate you hopping on short notice. I know we reached out to you not long before before we went live, but we appreciate you taking the time out of your night to join us here. So, obviously, a big game against Bergen Catholic this week. You guys started off the season against IMG Academy, another ranked opponent, where you guys really showed, how good you guys were. You guys opened that game down 21-0 and fought back there in the second quarter. So, what did you guys learn from that experience playing IMG Academy, and how does that help you prepare for this upcoming game against another nationally ranked opponent in Bergen Catholic?
It helped us to understand that if we keep our head in the game and just keep grinding and just like go ahead, just knowing we down and just keep playing ball, we know we're gonna be able to play with anybody.
So in that IMG Academy game, as I said, you guys were down 21-0. You guys rallied. You cut it to 21-14 at halftime. The momentum was on your guys' side. That sideline was going crazy. I think the entire Winslow Township was down in Ocean City that night. A lot of players, yourself included, Nakeem Powell, Karan Ali, Karan Caesar, a couple other guys. I know Chris mentioned a couple other guys, really helped their stock, that they really showed how good they were on that stage. It gave you guys that opportunity that I don't want to necessarily say you might not have had before, because obviously you guys are a state championship program that, won a lot of games last year, played a lot of talented opponents. But how special was it to have that opportunity to kind of show people like, look, maybe you guys are overlooking us?
Yeah, it show everybody that even a public school can do what we can do. Because at the end of the day, it's all football. Because it don't matter if it's private school, public school.
Absolutely. I know, obviously, you guys are in the season, whatnot, focused on the season, focused on what's coming up next. But was there any, conversations after that game? Was there, did you feel like your stock was going up? Anybody reach out to you? You see a lot of stuff on social media like, yo, this Jalen Parker guy is legit. Did you hear anything really after that game, after you put on a show like that?
Yeah, I heard some things, but I really wasn't worried about it. I'm trying to win another state championship before I get out of high school.
Absolutely. So, Chris, anything you want to ask Jalen? Obviously it's a big matchup coming up this week. Anything in terms of preparation, anything like that for the number one team in the state?
Yeah, I guess what's it like going to play IMG Academy? You guys get another South Jersey opponent in between. You guys get Bergen Catholic. How different is the style of play between I guess those different levels of where you get an IMG Academy, you get a South Jersey opponent, then you get obviously Bergen Catholic coming up this week, so the intensity of the game is going to be a little bit more different. So, what was the kind of biggest difference you saw between those two games so far?
The two biggest difference was like the size and like how the people play. Like IMG, they have a bunch of athletes on the field, a bunch of good guys, so it just like balanced out for us to play them. And Highland is like Highland.
Now, obviously, IMG Academy was your guys' first game, so you guys had the summer, not necessarily the summer. You guys are getting back into gear and whatnot just for the season in general, but you had that extended amount of time to prepare for them. But obviously, playing them and having that preparation period helps you guys to where when you're playing Bergen Catholic this week, you guys don't have an entire 2-3 weeks to prepare. It's really just a week, in between games and whatnot. How did that preparation process for IMG Academy help you guys for this preparation process with Bergen Catholic this week?
That preparation process really got us right for we was in the weight room for 4 days out of the week till we got to them. We was stretching, conditioning, and we were just staying in staying in the weight room, staying on the field. It wasn't like BSing.
Yeah. I got
Absolutely.
I got a quick
Go ahead.
question. My question is you kind of spoke to the preparation and things like that with IMG and playing, Highland. The speed of the game. You yourself, that's your first time playing a national team as well as some of your teammates. Did it take you a quarter or two to kind of get adjusted to the speed and size? Did you have to kind of fill it out? Like what was your process going through, the difference between the first quarter, because it was a clear difference between the first quarter and, the third and fourth quarter. Did it take a little time to get adjusted to the speed of the game?
Yeah, I can say that. Yeah, it took a little time. I just had to throw a couple hitches, get my guys ready to run, catch the ball, and take it to the house. But that really helped us catch the ball, get away from people, make a couple people miss, and just go down and get back onto the ball.
Okay, and just a question off of that, a lot of times people talk about how big the game is and things like that. Everybody has an opinion. When it first came out, everybody's opinion was Winslow wasn't going to be able to compete and all of that stuff. Um, Hearing all of that, like, did it fuel you guys? Was it what's the I guess my question to you is what's your guys' motivation when you hear things like that? Because it's easy to say we can play with them, but to actually do it was something very different that we saw here in South Jersey.
Yeah, our motivation was all week just keep our foot on the pedal, like just grind, show these big boys what Jersey got for real. Because Jersey, we the most underrated out of everybody for real.
Hmm. Okay.
And obviously, this game this week is being hosted down at your guys' stadium, at your guys' home field in Winslow Township, Atco, whatever the geography is down there. I know it's you talk to different people, they consider it different things, but this isn't a game that's being played at a neutral location. A game where you guys are going up north. This is a game where they are coming into your house down here in South Jersey. How excited are you guys for this opportunity to be in this spotlight and have this opportunity to obviously you guys are going out there to compete and with the intention of winning and representing Winslow Township, but also you're representing South Jersey in a huge light here, having these guys come down, the number one team in the state, and play on your guys' field. How excited are you guys for this opportunity?
Well, we're very excited. Them coming to the nest is a bad thing for them because once people step on the field, they can't leave without us coming out on top.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit questions about your off season. I know, we kind of know you from youth football. I remember you playing back in the Westville days, like the old days. So, seeing your progression and growing up, becoming who you are right now. One thing I can always say is when we were talking about, we should reach out and try to get somebody from Winslow to come up and talk about, things that are going on this week. To a man in the group chat, it was like, Jalen, he speaks well, he's maturing. Like, what is your foundation? Like, who are the people that kind of help you get to the point that you are, whether it be family members, coaches, whoever, like who is the person that helped or who are the people that helped Jalen become who you are?
People that helped me was my dad, my mom, and once I got to high school, Coach Bill, he really like showed me that I got to be a role model even though I'm young.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you mentioned that Coach Bill Bell, and obviously he played at Winslow Township, played quarterback there, set a lot of records, went on to have a great career at Penn State. What have you learned from him in the years that you've played with him, and how has he helped you grow, not only as a player but as an individual, a human being, a student athlete? How much have you learned from him, in your time at Winslow Township, being that you guys, play the same position?
I learned a lot from him. He's taught me everything I really know from quarterback position. I really don't. I really haven't played quarterback for that long. He just knew I had like good intentions with the ball in my hand. So all he told me is just be the point guard, pass the ball around, let your guys do what they got to do.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a lot of people want to know, Jalen, what's your off season like? How do you become a top quarterback in the state of New Jersey? I'm gonna just say this. I just thought about something when I was saying become the top quarterback in the state of New Jersey. I got in so many arguments about how good you were. So even before the IMG game, I don't know if y'all remember on the sideline, just trying to explain to people how good you are. Sometimes people always question how good you are because of your size or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
what's the off season like? What's the preparation like? Like you said, you haven't been playing quarterback that long. So what's your preparation like to become the player that you are?
The way I became the player I am, I train as an athlete. I don't train just as a quarterback, but the quarterback stuff comes with it because I am a quarterback, but I got to train like I'm all positions.
Very
Absolutely.
interesting.
And one of the players I forgot to mention also when we were talking stock rising, TJ Maddox, another player. I thought of him, Rick, when
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about guys you've seen throughout the youth ranks and whatnot. TJ was another guy who had a tremendous game down there in Ocean City that day. A guy who, obviously is talented. The offers are reeling in, and he really helped him stock that day. So I didn't want to forget TJ Maddox. I wanted to get that in there once it came back to my
Amen.
mind there. I don't want to, leave anybody out. And I know, Chris, you mentioned a lot of other guys who helped their stock that week. So anything else you guys want to ask Jalen while we have him here?
Chris, anything? I
I
mean,
got nothing.
I could talk to Jalen like just different conversation. I know everybody don't want to hear that, but no, I just want to say from us, man, congratulations on all your success you've had so far. Continue to grind, continue to stay humble and a respectable young person that you are. And just keep going, man. We all rooting for you, and we all rooting for the Winslow program come this weekend. You already know where, you know, our feet are planted at.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
Can't wait
Jalen.
for it. I'll see what we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Jalen.
Thanks,
Gotcha.
Jalen.
Have a nice night.
Thanks. Yeah, man. Once again, I want to say thank you to Jalen for coming on. Look, it was short notice, but we was able to get him on just to hear the mindset. I think right now, Jalen talks a little bit more than what he did. I think they all business right now. I could just feel it and coming out of him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, we pretty much broke down the matchup. We went through the numbers. We mentioned, some of the key players to look at on both sides of the ball. And obviously having a great conversation there with Jalen. You just see they're all business right now. D2 Sports Network Game of the Week. We will be down there. We'll have an article out tomorrow that highlights, all the games that we mentioned on the show and whatnot. And there'll be something in there, on Bergen Catholic and Winslow, because this this is the game of the year up until this point in the state of New Jersey, in terms of New Jersey football. I mean, obviously, we said Bergen Catholics played, two great out of state opponents. Winslow's played IMG Academy, but this is the one everyone in the state and the area is ready for because whoever wins this is number one in New Jersey. Simple as that. I know in most of the state rankings, and a couple state rankings, I should say, you have Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco Prep, Winslow. Some have Bergen Catholic, Winslow, Don Bosco Prep. So it's all subjective and whatnot. But whoever wins this game will be number one in the state consensusly. So
Yeah,
definitely a big one coming up.
that's for sure. I'm just excited that we're actually starting to play more North Jersey and I don't really like calling it Central, but North and Central teams. I'm just kind of excited that we're starting to see those crossovers. I guess the last 5 years we've started to see it a little bit, but now we're starting to get some of the bigger matchups that we've been asking for years. So coaches are sometimes coaches are afraid to take hard matchups because they don't want to lose points or power points or however that all works. But sometimes they just don't want to take these type of matchups. And what we're seeing is that now coaches are starting to tiptoe outside of their comfort zone because they understand how important it is in this day and age of social media to play some of the better teams and to show that your team isn't afraid to compete. I mean, this is a huge step for South Jersey in general. And Coach Bill Belton is one of the guys. He took two major steps this year, taking on IMG and then turning around a week later, 2 weeks later, and taking on a Bergen Catholic. That's a big deal for us here in South Jersey.
Absolutely. And I know Bill Bellin and his staff are they're real adamant about not being complacent. They want to continue to challenge themselves. And last year they went undefeated and won a state championship. So this year, what did they do? They want to take the next step and play two nationally ranked opponents. And as we've mentioned in previous shows and previous articles, they're going to continue to play, a strong schedule in the West Jersey Football League American Division itself. So they're not shying away from the competition. And I like the part that you mentioned about, we're seeing a lot more South Jersey, North Jersey matchups and whatnot. I mean, for the longest time, you had people always arguing, "Oh, South Jersey's better, North Jersey's better." It's a argument every single year. One state. At the end of the day, New Jersey is always going to represent when it comes to playing out of state competition and comparing themselves to other state. New Jersey's going to always ride together, but there's always going to be that South Jersey, North Jersey rivalry, and in a lot of times, we don't get to always see it until it comes down to the end of the year when the North Jersey representative is playing the South Jersey representative in a state championship. And state championships, obviously, for public schools is a fairly new concept in the state of New Jersey that just started a couple of seasons ago. So seeing teams, take these opportunities, take advantage of these opportunities and, play the best competition they can play is definitely good for the entire state of New Jersey. The players benefit from it, the coaches, the fans get to see the games that they wanted to see. So I definitely think it's great moving forward. And I think it's going to, pave the way for a lot more, big matchups in, the coming seasons.
Yeah, it's kind of giving me the vibe of different states like, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, like those southern states. They typically travel across state lines, play out of state competition early in the season, usually between week 1 and 3, and then they go into their league play. So, I mean, similar to Philadelphia as well, some of those teams have been traveling. I believe Roman Catholic was down in Florida last week. Same thing with St. Joe's. They played down in Florida, and then they went turn around played down in Maryland. So we're starting to see some of that trickle on to New Jersey, and that's a good thing. I think it's always great when you could showcase um, your talent, whether you win or lose. It's a great thing because you're giving your kids the exposure of playing other competition to see what else is out there other than what's in your backyard or around the corner. Because sometimes, like Jalen said, and I don't think he said it to slight them at all, but he said it's IMG, and then he said the next game, I mean, it's Highland. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're comfortable. You know those guys. You've been playing them in 7-on-7. You've been training with them. You've been doing one-on-ones versus them. You know that competition. So it's really good to get outside of your comfort zone, see some new faces and some guys that are ready to hit you just as much as you are ready to hit them. So, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely. And we mentioned on the show last week about how, Camden's a program that's been going out of state, the first week of the season these past couple of years. Then we've seen St. Augustine go up to Canton to play an
Mm-hmm.
Ohio opponent at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we mentioned how those schools were stopping at college games along the way, on the way home, giving players those opportunities. So it's much more than just, playing football. These guys are creating memories. These kids are creating memories with their friends, something they'll remember for a lifetime. And, especially as they go on to play in college, even those who may not play in college, it's something they'll always remember, something they'll always cherish. So it's definitely a good opportunity for these guys. So I think that pretty much does it for us. Is there anything you guys want to add?
No, I mean, I'm just adding. I'm kind of sick that I'm not going to be at the game on Friday night, but I'm gonna be watching. I hope they have a live stream up so I can put it up on the TV where I am. I don't know, man. We're coming into the season. I was kind of like dragging, because it's repetitive. It's the same thing over and over. We're kind of dragging into it, and then we hit the ground and we go. I'm kind of excited for this season, and I think a lot of my newfound excitement is we're starting to see a lot of new faces. We're starting to see a lot of different things. Like this week, like you guys were talking about, Eastside is 2-0. They they play who do they play this week? Is it RV? They play RV
Yeah.
Yep, they
at
host
East
Ranco the
Side,
Challenge in the
who
South.
RV's
Yep.
2-0. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of teams that we've known about, but it's a lot of new faces around. So it's a lot of fresh new talent that we're starting to see, and guys are starting to grow. And we get this like I say like every 3 years. It's the I guess right now is the era after Brooks. Brooks was such a major, polarizing figure that everybody wanted to see Brooks. Now it's like who's the next guy in South Jersey that is going to be polarizing and people want to see him. It's very similar to when Devin Leary was playing. Everybody had to get out to see Devin Leary. It was a thing you had to do. So right now it's the build up to who's the next guy, and that's kind of exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a generational shift. A lot of programs are seeing guys graduate and whatnot, and now it's these guys' turn. A lot of
Right.
programs, where you have JV guys and freshman guys that they're developing, and now that they're getting older, there's opportunities open up, positions are opening up, and whatnot. And we see a lot of the very good programs in South Jersey who are good traditionally. They just continue to reload every year. And like you said, it's always interesting because you see new names emerge, new faces and whatnot, guys you may not have heard the year before who have had that talent, that potential all along. Now it's just their opportunity and they're making the most of the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's definitely exciting to see that.
Yeah, very exciting. And last thing, anybody watching, please comment and share out the broadcast. If we're doing a show and you want to ask questions or you have input, please put it in the comment section. We could read it. Right now, we're streaming to 2 different locations on Facebook and on YouTube. So we will be streaming to a third location, which is pretty much our home base. That's our own platform where you can go and watch the broadcast. You can put it on your TV on Roku. All you have to do is put in a channel which is D2 SN-Studio B, and it'll pop right up on your Roku TV. You could comment. It's just so much that you could do from there. So we're trying to transition, bringing in new shows by the numbers. Kevin and Chris are definitely having some nuggets. Like I didn't even realize that many people rushed for 100 yards and this weekend, but some good nuggets. And if you guys have input or if we miss somebody, please put it in the comment section.
Absolutely. And before we go, I just want to say make sure to check us out at d2sportsnetwork.com. As I said, we'll have an article coming out tomorrow highlighting 5 of the biggest games or 5 of the most intriguing matchups to check out in South Jersey this week. There's a complete schedule included as well. So if you want to take a look at the schedule for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, see if there's any games in your area at a time where you're available and you want to check that out, that'll be there as well. And of course, make sure to check us out on Instagram at D2 Sports Network. The incredible work that our videographers and photographers do each and every week, traveling throughout New Jersey, capturing moments and whatnot. And if you ever want them to come to one of your games and handle any of your photography or videography needs, just reach out to them on Instagram and they'll be sure to help out. We thank you guys for joining us again. Episode 3, By the Numbers. I'm Kevin Emmons. That's Chris Breaker. Roderick Boyd working on the magic